I guess, because with the technology and because of the name of this group, what would you say would be the difficulties doing businesses? Let's say, because you talked about cross-border business, what would you say would be the difficulties?
Specifically in China or just international in general?
Well, China specifically and other places that you encounter that's notable to your experience.
I think for us, we essentially follow our clients in a way, right? So our clients, like I said, we bring the technology, we bring the consumers, we're the bridge. So what we help with is wherever companies are looking for market research, wherever there is a significant amount of online market research, we will eventually get there. We're specifically talking about China. I think online market research is not as big in China right now as it probably will be in the next few years. I mean, just talking about US where we started, comparing it to China, they're worlds apart right now. Because in China, there's enough online market research that is being done. In the US, one of the reasons why people shifted from offline to online was because offline was just becoming too expensive. It was getting really hard to get consumers to participate in research offline.
Right.
If you remember, well, you and I probably won't be able to remember this, but from what I hear about market research, like 10, 15 years ago, there were significantly more mall intercepts or people coming up and saying, hey, here's a survey, would you take 10 minutes and fill out this paper survey? You don't see that anymore. Because no one has time to say, all right, I'm walking by. No one will say, sure, I'll spend 15 minutes with you right now for taking the survey. It just doesn't happen. Whereas online, it is possible because people can do it at their own convenience. So that's where it picked up in the US. I think it's still not there at that point in China, but just like the US, I think that will eventually happen.
And you would say so about other countries as well?
Some countries, and different countries have different challenges. Like for instance, right now we're trying to expand into South America, and there are different challenges on that front. Sometimes it's a matter of, in some regions, I mean, it also is a matter of if I'm a brand, I'm looking for data, I'm looking for the right kind of audience. I also want the audience to be representative of my customer base, right? Now, if you go into some regions in South America, you might see online penetration or internet penetration is good in some regions, but not the other. So it sort of comes off as biased data.
Right.
It only represents a percentage of my customer base or my consumers, but not necessarily the whole picture. Hence, I still have to do offline, and I think that's gradually changing. I mean, of course, it's not a problem for someone in the U.S. because internet penetration is so high.
Right.
But even in China, I mean, it's not as high as I mean, of course, it's getting better, but it's not up there yet. You go into South America, as I was talking about, that we're expanding into, similar challenges.
Right.
Western Europe, not as much, but Eastern Europe, we started going into some of these markets. Not as easy for a company like us to just go in and grow business.
Right. Absolutely. And you mentioned a little bit about the progression of time, right? As you said,
yes.
From paper-based to electronics. So going forward, I'm sure, because you're the founder and you must have vision in this, what would you say would be the future in this industry?
The future in this industry, I think, it's a good question. I think mobile is going to play a big role because the challenges that people have had with online, with internet, with just at-home survey participation, a lot of that goes away, or it sort of minimizes the challenges with mobile. I think it's interesting because mobile is bringing it's sort of almost like it's a unique moment where both consumers and brands and all the research firms all are coming on the same platform for once. At least from my experience is limited given the past 7-8 years, but I've never seen everybody be on the same platform or be excited about the same platform. When we started Peanut Labs, we had to convince people, and these are brands and agencies, we had to convince them that consumers who are online and are willing to participate in your surveys, they are just like any other consumer. They're not, everybody had this hypothesis that, they must just be gamers, or they only represent a small segment of my target audience because they're tech savvy, they're spending time online, and they're savvy enough that they know that there's a service that they can use to be incentivized to sharing their opinion. But I think with mobile that is changing because there was also a question around, hey, how many people are online? How many people do have a laptop or a computer? I think with mobile that is changing, because mobile has already had distribution for years now. Now is the time where I guess in a way, all the technology and the software is coming up to speed, so that people can now have applications for data collection, and at the same time where consumers already are using applications. So never before have they all been on the same level. So to cut a long story short, I think future mobile would play a big role, and that would help. That would also help the transition, because regions where you don't have good on internet penetration right now, I think mobile is going to cut it.
Right.
Because it will definitely be cheaper.
Right. And in consideration of time, last question for you.
Absolutely.
Is that, as you mentioned, that mobile is the future, and I would agree, and it would seem like the trend, but one downside is that it's not so easy to protect your intellectual asset, let's say. How would you go about doing that?
I think, well, the two questions around it. I think intellectual asset would be, in this case, I mean, it's something like market research. It's more about the data itself, right? What am I sharing? What are my opinions? And I think on that front, it is not as big of an issue, because people are already, I mean, whether you're texting, whether you're sending emails, in a way, it comes naturally,
right?
What you're doing. But I do agree, like, it might not be the case with this industry specifically, but in general, yes, that is while there is the upside of mobile being easily accessible and all that, but of course intellectual property, or just in general, that is the challenge, and
right.
we'll continue to see that. And I think hopefully, I mean, if you think about it, mobile has really just picked up over the past 3 years or 4 years. If you really think about it, we're still at the very early stages of it.
Absolutely.
So I'm sure there'll be some smart people out there who'll figure it out.
Like yourself, right?
I like to think so, but
absolutely,
we'll see.
All right, sounds good. Well,
perfect.
Thank you for your time.
Absolutely.
Great
Thank you.
Chatting with you.
You as well. Thank you.
All right.